It is December 6th, 2025, and this is season 4, episode 35 of Two Guys on Politics. We're broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio each week, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania, and I'm with my co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski. We got a bunch of topics we're going to talk about. One is the Supreme Court effort to review Trump's birthright order restrictions. Another is Trump's personal attacks against Ilhan Omar in Minnesota and the entire Somali world and Somali community. And then Trump has set up a website that's called Media Offenders. That's on the whitehouse.gov/media bias webpage that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the economy. Wall Street officials are warning of this K-shaped economy. What does that mean? We'll go into it. And I attended a book signing with Dennis Ross this past week, the special advisor to Reagan, Bush, Clinton, and Obama, where he says that the 28 part peace plan on Ukraine is something that Putin put together for Trump and that Trump embraced it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with myself and Bill Lipinski and talk about some of these issues. We'll be right back right after these messages. Okay. I'm Ray Hanania.
And I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics.
And like I said earlier in our intro, we got a lot of good topics. Our first topic, Bill, is the Supreme Court wants to review Trump's birthright order restrictions, which deny birthright to any children of parents who are not citizens themselves or legal residents, children who are born in the U.S. And I think, doesn't the law say that anybody born in the U.S., correct, is
Yes, it
a
does.
citizen? That is the actual law, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the actual law, and that's an amendment to the Constitution. You would have to change that amendment. You would have to get the
Right.
House and the Senate, to go along with it, the president to sign it, and then you'd have to get, what is it, three-fourths of the states to
Right.
go along with it also. So it's a very steep mountain to climb, and I don't think that we should do it. But by the same token, I think that there should be some kind of modification because I don't think people should be able to come across our borders, whether it's from Canada or from Mexico, have a child, and then have that child be an American citizen. They're not American citizens. Then they all go back to whatever country they came from in the first place, but their child will always be an American citizen and entitled to all the benefits of this country. I don't think that's right. I think we should amend that part of our law, saying that is not really what was intended by the people who wrote that amendment into the Constitution.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that he's right by wanting to restrict birthright to only children who are born in this country whose parents are legally in the country. So it
Correct.
doesn't mean that they're citizens. They could be on a visa, a legal visa. They could be visitors. They could be on a work visa. They could have all different reasons why they're in this country, as long as they're legal. And if they happen to have a baby here, I think that baby becomes an American. But
I,
our problem is, you and I both agree, right? Are these illegal aliens where we seem to coddle them, to set aside the laws when it comes to people who illegally enter this country because they want some benefit or they don't like their country. There's a legal process. They should go through that.
no, I agree. And if they go through that, that's fine with me. Then they can ultimately become citizens, and their children born here will be citizens automatically because they're born here. A thing that gets me not only with this particular issue, but the issue of going after illegal aliens in this country. the left so often wants to join immigrant and illegal
Right,
aliens together.
right.
There's a big difference. I mean, you can be an immigrant and have come here legally.
Yes.
The illegal aliens, they didn't come here in the first place legally. They came here, you know, under the cover. Uh, and they should not be lumped together. But unfortunately, the left does that.
Yeah, and they make that argument just because they want to reinforce this idea of allowing illegals to stay in this country. They conflate immigrant with illegal, and you're absolutely right. They're not the same.
No,
One is a crime. One is legal. One is a crime. And to me, it's the crime that I know I'm against and you're against. But when we say we're against illegal aliens, people say, "Oh, you're anti-immigrant," and then they
that's
use that to attack us. That's
right.
just not true. And
No,
that's
it's
our
not true at all.
world. That's our horrible world today, where people can conflate all this. And I think it has. Believe me, Bill, I think this has a lot to do with social media, where anybody can express an opinion and feel that they are toe to toe with a congressman or a journalist who studies this stuff. I'm not a doctor. I don't tell doctors what to do. I hope they do the right thing. Just because I watch Marcus Welby on TV or Dr. Kildare, remember those programs
Oh,
growing
I
up?
remember him very well.
I,
Absolutely.
I watch them do heart surgery. That doesn't mean that I could walk in and put a mask on my face and then cut somebody open and fix their heart. Just because I've seen how easy it is. It's simple. It only takes a little bit of work. You just attach a couple veins. What do you do? That's the attitude that people have towards what you do as a professional member of a former member of Congress, a professional public servant. What I do as a journalist, I spend my time researching all this stuff, living by a responsibility to be objective. Even if I don't always achieve that, even if I'm not always right, I'm still driven by I want to do the right thing. That's what journalism is about. We've lost that. Now it's like, no, they don't care. Just they'll say whatever they want on social media, and that becomes the fact. And that's what they blindly follow. It's a real problem.
Oh, it is. Well, that's why I call my newspaper column right from the middle, because I strive to give the
Yes,
middle opinion. I give you my opinion, but I also give you opinions that are different than mine. And I try to let the audience make up their mind who they believe or who they want to believe. But that's not happening anymore, unfortunately, in this country. You're either left or you're right. You're progressive. You're a socialist. You're fascist. I mean, it's disgusting what has
it's
happened
name calling,
in this
right? It's
country.
just
That's
name
all it
calling.
is name calling.
Yeah, it's terrible. And by the way, for our listeners, now Congressman Lipinski, his right from the left column, correct? That's title,
Right
right from
in the
the
middle.
right. I'm sorry, right from the middle. I was trying to make you into a commie. I apologize. Right from the middle. You're right from the middle column. I do publish them now on my syndicated platform called Hanania.com. We have one up there, and we're going to have more out there where you can read Bill's columns and perspectives on things more easily. And the same with my columns. You can go to Hanania.com and do that.
Ray,
The
there's
the
one thing I would
Mhm.
like to interject here, and it really
Sure,
isn't necessarily what we're talking about here.
that's all right.
I have kidded you about your support for the uh, mayor-elect of New York being a socialist. And
Oh yeah, Mendami.
one of the things I've talked to you
Let
about,
me salute Commander Mendami, Comrade Mendami.
right, exactly, yeah, yeah, and I will salute my
No,
winning.
don't raise your hand like that, okay? Like Elon Musk when he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna go do that." It comes across the wrong way. Yeah,
Uh,
I would do the salute through your forehead.
well, okay. Oh, you do it with the right hand, not the left hand.
Yeah, the
All right,
right hand,
here's
right?
the point I, I want to try to make before you turned into a comedian over here. I criticize the free bus service that he wants to implement in New York City. I was
Right.
just reading in the New York Times, in fact, this morning, that Iowa City has had that for the last 9 or 10 months. Everybody rides for free.
Wow.
And what it has done, it has cut down the traffic considerably in
Oh,
Iowa City. It's cut down the emissions and it has helped clean up the air in
so it,
Iowa City.
so it could work.
And you have people on the bus that are professors, laborers, biologists, students. I mean, everybody now rides the bus. Uh, so, if it can work in Iowa City, I don't see why it can't work in New York City
Yeah.
as long as they're willing, to tax the people to subsidize it. I mean, nothing really is free. You're either going to pay when you get on the bus or you're going to pay in your taxes. But it works and it seems to be beneficial. So your comrade there in New York, I think, has a pretty good idea in this free bus service.
Well, I've always felt that Mandami, just to kind of segue off of our topic here for a second, uh, he has some really good ideas. I don't like the term socialist because that's used to drag him down by the far
He, he,
right.
he does that himself,
Yeah,
Ray.
well, he calls himself a democratic socialist, which I
Right.
think is a little bit different. Because if you're any form of democracy, you're a left-wing Democrat, a right-wing Democrat, a socialist Democrat. As long as you're a Democrat and believe in democracy, I think that's an important part of even a Republican. But there are some issues that, I worry about him coming from the far left. But I think, like a lot of politics, people start someplace, and when they get into office, they kind of moderate a little bit. So
I
I'm
agree.
expecting hopefully some good things from him and his programs. But one thing we that happened in New York before he was mayor was the conviction of Juan Orlando Hernandez. He was the president of Honduras, who was convicted in March 2024 for conspiracy to import cocaine to the U.S., drug trafficking, conspiracy to use machine guns, conspiracy to possess machine guns to give to his drug traffickers. And he was sentenced to 45 years in prison in a New York courtroom. Now, Trump pardoned him, I believe it was in October. Or no, excuse me, he pardoned him earlier. And I don't have the exact
I think,
December 1. December 1.
yeah,
He
right.
just last week, right?
Yeah.
But several weeks before that, Trump made this big claim like how he's so against drugs and how we're going to kill all those drug dealers coming from Venezuela. On September 2nd, the U.S., I think it was the Department of War, attacked what they call the drug boat. And there's several incidents because they're confusing it. I think they're lying about some of this stuff. And after one attack, there were two people that were hanging onto the boat on the side of the boat trying to
Well,
survive.
that's the way the Democrats spin it, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. But there were like five different incidents where this has happened. In some cases, there were survivors who were trying to flip the boat to get it back going and do whatever they were going to do. And in other cases, there were survivors who were just hanging on the boat. We don't have all the real facts
No,
on
we
what's
definitely do
going
not.
on in the Caribbean and what we're doing. That troubles me more than anything else. It troubles me that we accuse somebody of being a drug dealer without going to court, without providing facts. We just do it. And I really believe the real drive here is Trump wanting to start a war. He wants a war with Venezuela because he believes he can win it. And Venezuela is big enough for Americans to say, oh, yeah, he's a threat, so that he could postpone the elections
Yes,
in 2028. I believe that.
I know you believe that. I don't believe that, but I mean, I believe that, he likes to keep the scales balanced. He's after these narcotics people who are bringing all these drugs into the United States by boat, which I
Right,
had never heard of before until he started attacking them. I had
right.
always heard it came in through Mexico, but so he's attacking them there. So he felt to keep the scales balanced, he has to pardon some big drug king. Now, supposedly, the Trumps have done business with this guy prior to
Yes,
the time
yes.
President Trump was elected president.
And that's not an unusual pattern
No,
because,
it's not,
and before
unfortunately.
we leave that, I just want to say that Venezuela does allegedly isn't the source of the drugs, but they assist in trafficking. The biggest sources of drugs are Mexico, Colombia, Bolivia. They're the ones that produce the drugs, and their cartels, the Mexican cartels, are the ones that distribute it in the United States. Why are we picking on Venezuela? In other words, there's something wrong with his priorities. It's more personal, it's a business thing for him. That's why I believe he's doing this because there's some political benefit to him. And then look at his pardons. What was this other pardon? I was looking at up this in October. He pardoned Changpeng Zhao, who's the owner or founder of the cryptocurrency company Binance. And it turns out that this guy was accused of stealing all kinds of money from investors. But it turned out that this guy, Zhao, was doing more than $2 billion in business with the Trump family. He pardoned this guy because he's an investor in his
Yeah, but he
family's
says he's never
business.
met the guy. He doesn't really
Oh,
know.
wow. Yeah, I never met Mickey Mouse either, but that doesn't mean that I don't think Mickey Mouse is a good entertainer. Um, yeah, these are the things that are troubling about all this drug stuff. That's why I don't believe he cares about drugs. You want to protect the. Senator Tom Cotton was on TV saying, "Oh, the American people are going to feel really great when we reduce the amount of drugs coming into this country." And I'm thinking, you want to reduce the amount of drugs coming in this country? Attack Mexico. If you're going to attack anybody, they're the biggest source of drugs in this country, but they don't want to do it, right?
No, absolutely. I saw that also this morning. Now, I've never really thought much of Senator Cotton. I always thought he's a rather uh, shoot from the hip. Uh,
Yes.
and I do not agree with many of the positions he has taken. And I certainly don't agree with his support day in and day out, 1,000% of President Trump. But I thought he did an excellent job on that program defending
Yes.
his positions and President Trump's positions.
Yeah, he did. But I will say that his foundation of defense is full of holes.
Well,
That stopping Venezuela is not going to prevent people down the street in Chicago from having and buying drugs. It's not going to have any impact whatsoever. What it will do is it'll help Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas, and Donald Trump, a Democrat who took over the Republican Party and turned it into a cult, that they're going to get what they want to do. They're worried about the midterm elections coming up
they
next
should be.
year, and I agree with you. They should be. Finally, we got this attack against uh, Somalis and U.S. Representative Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. President Trump calls her garbage. I mean, did you ever think you would hear words like that? And this is not unusual from Trump to come out of the mouth of a president. You call somebody
Never.
garbage, you call somebody piggy, you tell somebody to shut up, you're by it. You're at a press conference. There's no respect in the way he presents himself. He just calls, if he doesn't like you, he will call you anything he wants, true or not, just like name calling. That really should be troubling, but for many Americans, it's not.
No, that is what is more upsetting to me than what Trump actually has to say. It's the fact that so many Americans think it's perfectly all right for him to do that kind of stuff. I mean, we are losing a great deal of respect around the world because of the way this guy talks.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
And I think it's troubling his misogyny. His is a real. I mean, I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was all political propaganda. But the more you see it, calling a reporter, female reporter, Peggy, yeah, that's horrible. not just privately on TV. It
Yes.
makes America look bad. I don't understand how Republican women can put up with that. Like they don't care. I mean, do you think this misogyny, these attacks against women, the way Trump attacks women, he's attacked all women. Hillary Clinton. I mean, I didn't like her as a candidate, but you don't attack her because she's a woman. Kamala Harris, you don't attack her because she's a woman. There are real issues. It suggests that he's weak on the facts and can't argue the facts, so he has to argue the gender and attack women. That Mary Bruce from ABC that he just went off on during that one press conference during the Saudi
And
meeting
I
with
think that
the
she's one of the more objective reporters covering the White
yes,
House. I will say in regards to the Cotton interview this morning, I thought he did a very, very good job because I think the moderator, frankly, is very much left wing. And I think the
yes,
questions that she asked him were very pointed questions. She had Senator Adam Schiff on
right,
immediately afterwards, a Democrat from California, and she would
yes.
ask him a question that he could hit out of the ballpark. And he went on talking about it for 4 or 5 minutes. And then when he finally finished, she'd ask him another question that he could hit out of the ballpark again. So it shows the bias of the news media. And that, that is as bad as Trump's position in the names that he calls people.
Yeah, to be honest, but what was the other guy that was on with Cotton? Who
Adam
was it?
Schiff.
Adam Schiff, right. Now, I don't like Adam Schiff.
No, I don't
And
either.
what's amazing to me is that Trump can and Cotton can actually, in my opinion, make Adam Schiff look like a good argument,
I, I
person with a
agree with
great
you.
argument. And I think that's the worst. That's another bad part of everything that's happening. He's horrible. Cotton may be smart, but it's almost like Republicans feel an obligation to defend Trump even when he's wrong, just because they think that it's in their best interest to do it.
Yes, and I agree with you on Adam Schiff. I don't like him. I never have liked him.
Yeah.
Uh, to me, he's like the smart aleck kid on the playground holding it over everybody else. I'm smarter than you. I know what the
Yes.
answer is. I know what the best thing to do is. And that's how he's always come across to me. He's a smart guy. There's no question about it. But he tries to present himself as being very objective, which is totally untrue. He's as biased left wing
Yes.
as you can possibly get.
That Trump can make him look good to me is another crime in my
Right.
book. All this stuff. All right, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we can continue with some of our other topics: the media website that the White House set up, the economy, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about the 28 peace plan proposal in Gaza. So hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania.
And I'm Bill Lipinski.
And Bill, I don't know if you've wandered over to the taxpayer funded website called whitehouse.gov.
No, I
Uh,
haven't.
they have put a new section on it called Media Offenders. That's the title when and with websites, titles are behind the page. So when you put your mouse over the link, the words media offenders pops up. But when you go to the website, it says you go there, it'll say misleading, biased, exposed in red. Media offender of the week. This week it's the Washington Post, and it has to do with two reporters, Alex Horton and Ellen Nakashimi, for publishing an article from two unnamed sources claiming that Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a joint special operations commander to kill everybody, something we just talked about, during an anti-terrorist operation in the Caribbean Sea. And they go through length and length They provide the sources for the criticism, and then they provide their response to it. Now, I don't think that this is a bad idea if it weren't targeting the media. If you were targeting a topic and saying, "Hey, this is our story about what happened with the so-called survivors of this attack on the drug boat. Here's our proof. Here's all the information." I would love to see that.
Well, I'd love to
Yeah,
see that also.
but that's not what we're seeing. And it's a big black page with red letters, exposed, the big stamp. It's like very dramatic. You got to go there. It's
I definitely will.
whitehouse.gov/media bias. Um, I, I don't think it's a misspending of American tax dollars, but I think it's a misuse of White House information. The White House should be there to present information, not attack people. But he is an attack president, right? I mean, maybe in fact the White House he may come up with a new name, like I don't know where when you're uh, involved in an attack or an assault on another country, they have a title for that gathering. I think that's what he's going to find a new name for the White House that suggests an attack or an assault because everything about him is attacking. That's his strategy, right? If
Yes,
somebody
it
says
certainly
something
is.
about him, he doesn't respond, he just attacks you.
Well, that way he doesn't have to give any facts.
Right. Yeah. And that to me, I'm just I don't know, even if I were a supporter of his, and I voted for him first time. Yeah, I voted for him the first time because I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't like her, and I like her even less the more I hear her talk. I bought her book, I read it, it was horrible. I didn't vote for him the second time. I voted for Biden. Biden, I felt, was a disappointment. I don't think he did what he said he was going to do. I'm not sure if it's really old age or cognitive
What
problems.
did Biden do?
I don't think he did anything. And the worst thing was the war in Ukraine. I blame him a lot. I put a lot of blame on him for Ukraine and Russia going as far as Russia did. We should have been tougher. We should have found a much more threatening. We didn't have to go to nuclear war with Russia. We've been like this before. Kennedy, when he had the Cuban Missile Crisis, yeah, I mean, we came as close as possible, but that wasn't the goal. And we saw them back down too. This idea that we're the only ones afraid of nuclear war, that the Soviets don't care. He didn't do enough there. And then, of course, I have the feelings about the Middle East. He allowed the Israeli government, not Israel, but the government to do what it did, to go way beyond looking for the Hamas targets, to just kill everybody, just you blow up a village, you destroy. There's no reason they have to destroy all these cities and towns in Gaza to get to Hamas. They could do it. The Israelis, what was it? They had cell phones. They took over a cell phone company. And when they wanted to get Hezbollah, they blew up all the cell phones that Hezbollah had. Now, you tell me that they have to destroy an entire city to identify where the Hamas people are. That's the fallacy of what Israel's government, not Israel, but Israel's government is
Well,
doing.
I said within 2 or 3 weeks of the beginning of that conflict that Netanyahu was going after it in the wrong way
Yeah.
by this mass destruction he was carrying out, and that he was going to lose support around the world. And he has. What I predicted has come true. There's Israel and there's the United States of America. Is there another country that still really supports Netanyahu and what he has done there? I don't.
There are a couple, not many. It's only a few, and they're very small countries. It's the U.S. Most of the UN is against what, and it's not they're not against Israel because a lot of Arab countries have signed peace accords with Israel. They just don't like the government and what the government is doing. Now he's been in charge for 20 years, but it just I worry though that you're right. He's undermining Israel more than anybody. Later, we'll talk about that. I was going to end it with this Dennis Ross book signing that I went to. We talked about the Middle East. I thought
Sure.
we'll talk about it then. But the point is that you can't get facts anymore. We can't get facts. And that is why I was disappointed in Biden. And then I ended up voting again for Trump this time because I just couldn't handle Kamala Harris. I didn't feel she was genuine. It's almost like she had Hillary Clinton's entitlement, that arrogance, that, oh, you're going to elect him? Are you kidding? And I'm thinking, what are you going to do for us? And I don't feel she ever really answered that. And I knew Trump had some good ideas, but that there was baggage with them. I didn't realize that the baggage was going to get so bad.
Well,
But I don't
I
blame
don't think
me.
anyone could realize that.
Yeah.
Uh,
But they shouldn't blame me. Blame Biden and Kamala Harris. Don't
well,
blame me for
I
making
just
my
want to
choice.
put the record straight here. I didn't vote for Trump the first time, the second time, or the third time. And if he runs a fourth time, I won't vote for him then either. By the same token, I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I voted for the most, what I considered middle of the road conservative candidate. I knew that person didn't have a chance, but I couldn't bring myself to vote either for the Democrat or the Republican. I didn't think either one of them were going to really do much good for the average middle class American.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big problem that we need to address, our political system. All of this polarization and conflict, I think, is undermining our political system.
No question about it.
It's destroying it, and we need to do something about it. But you want to shift a little bit over to the economy. There, everybody's talking about something called the K-shaped economy, and it really kind of says what I believe is happening. That the K, one fork goes up, one fork goes down on the K. The up is for the rich people are doing really well, and the downward is the K part downward reflects how bad middle class and lower income people are doing in this country. And I saw Trump this week on TV, I think, talking about, oh, they're spending more money than they've ever spent for groceries and products at Christmas. Yeah, because they doubled the prices of a tomato and eggs. And if I want to go buy something for somebody, it costs me 2 to 3 times more than if I want to go out to dinner. I am spending more money. The problem is I'm getting far less for what I'm spending my money. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to spend money, but there are people out there that I worry about and I wonder about because of inflation. And the worse people get, the craziness comes out. And some people, not all, will cross into crime and do more harm just because they want to strike out or they want to grab things or use crime rather than working to get what they want to do. That really bothers me, but it doesn't seem like the president cares. He's more interested in his image and his ego, how he looks, right? He says the economy's better than it's ever been. I don't know. Is it better than it's ever been, Bill?
Absolutely not. No, no. Now, I want to say that I believe in capitalism. I believe capitalism is what has really built this country, given people enormous opportunity to move from the lower class into the middle class, many into the upper class. And by class, I'm talking about economic income, economic security. All right. But unfortunately, the economy we have at the present time is doing exactly what you said. The people with money are doing well. In fact, they're
Right,
doing better than they've perhaps ever done before. The middle
right.
class is shrinking. The economic poor are getting squeezed more and more. This country is turning into the exact opposite of what it was born to be. It was born ultimately to be a nation of opportunity for everybody. No matter what class you may have been born into in the old country, if you came here and worked hard and you were halfway smart you could achieve some economic independence. And we're losing that in this country. And we lose that, we're going to lose this country. It's not going to be the country that you and I grew up in, went to work in, became somewhat successful in. All right. And I think that's going to be a terrible loss for us.
Yeah, and I think the what we really need, and this washing over the problem with bluster the way Trump does. And he says, "Oh, the economy is better than it's ever been." Yeah, because there are some examples. I did see that yesterday the gasoline price was under $3 a gallon. But does that make it any better? Yeah, sure, I'm saving 20 cents a gallon, from what it was the week before, but it's been horrible. I've spent the whole year spending more money for gasoline, and now I'm going to get a brief reprieve. I'm not even sure why or what he did, but it concerns me because the economy is our foundation. And if we're not taking, I know that we don't do a good enough job taking care of the poor. We should be able to do better, and separate the poor from those people who exploit
Right.
welfare and poverty, because there are people that do that. They just don't want to do it, and we make it easier for them to not do what they need to do than we make it easier for those who are incapable of standing up on their own to actually stand up on their own. The system is skewered, and nobody's addressing that.
Well,
And now I think the middle class is hurt.
I think that what 15 years ago, if you were called a socialist, you know, you were a persona non grata. Everybody associated that with communism, a dictatorship. Today, you know as well as I that that is not the case. Now, you can
Right,
say what you want, pro or con, about the new mayor of New York City, and I'm
right,
not going to go after him in one way or another. But he proudly says he's a democratic socialist, and
right.
he received tons and tons of votes. The mayor of Portland, Oregon, the mayor of Seattle, Washington, those two may not call themselves socialists, but their policies are definitely socialistic policies. The same way with the mayor of Chicago. He never says anything about being a socialist, but many of his policies are socialistic, and many people support this. I mean, it has become, it's no longer a word that makes you persona non grata. It is now a word that people accept. Oh, so he's a socialist. He believes in a certain form of economics. There's really nothing wrong with that. Well, that is totally contrary to the way this country developed from 1776 up to maybe about 10 years or so ago.
Yeah, and I also think that words have lost their meaning. So in a combative, polarized world that we live in, every word suddenly means worse than it really means. When and I know we're not debating Memdami, the mayor of the
No,
soon to be sworn in mayor of New York City, but he, when you look at his policies, I like his policies. I don't view them as socialist like Fidel Castro or Khrushchev. The
well,
word
no, they were
socialism,
communists, though, Ray. They weren't really socialist.
well, but they would talk about the socialism as the
Yes, absolutely.
basis for
Oh,
their foundation and stuff, and
that's the Soviet Socialist
it
Republic.
exactly, the word socialism was associated with communism and a
So,
threat to America. I don't think that the socialism that we're seeing is that type of threat to our country. I think
I
it's just a
agree.
label for wanting to help the poor, wanting to, provide more services to families. I mean, there are a lot of programs that I think are really good that have been labeled socialist.
Don't you agree that 15 years ago, if you were called a socialist, you were
It was
going place in politics?
it was over. I remember the
Absolutely.
LaRouches. You remember the LaRouches? They snuck in that one
Sure.
election where they won a statewide election, I think. And then people
Yeah,
were
they went
surprised.
maybe
How did they get
primaries
in?
in two different categories. Yes.
Right, yeah. So, but I think it's different. I think today the meaning of the word has no meaning. It's
Right.
just a label that's turned into a club. Um, let's you want to switch and talk a little bit about the 28-point Ukraine plan. I mean, first of all, overall, here's a real serious problem that we're not addressing either. There are a lot of international problems like Gaza. I don't think we're doing it the right way, but this 28 plan for Ukraine. Let's talk about that a little bit. At
Okay.
first, it sounded like it was a good idea until you started hearing the points, the 28 points. Have you looked at the 28 points
Yes, I've
yourself at
looked at
all?
28 points. Originally, it was also said that it
Mhm.
was President Trump's position, this 28 points. As time has evolved, it's become more and more that it was actually put together by the Russians, by Putin. He gave it to Trump. Trump put it out as his plan. Now, he has disassociated himself from it when he met with so much of a kickback from so
Right.
many people in this country. But that, to me, Trump is trying to figure out a way where he can take care of his buddy Putin. Why, I have no idea, but he's trying to take care of his buddy Putin, end this war, and get himself the Nobel Peace Prize. But he's willing to sacrifice whatever he has to sacrifice in the Ukraine to do that. And I think that is a terrible thing.
Yeah, Dennis Ross, who was a security advisor to Reagan, to H.W. Bush, Clinton, and then Obama. He was involved in the Middle East. That's how I came to know him. He's written several books. He came out with a new book called Statecraft 2.0. It's a follow up. And he talks about everything, from all these things. But when he gets to Putin, he says the one thing he doesn't understand is what Trump, why Trump is so willing to listen to and be influenced by Putin, why he continues to gravitate towards Putin, and why, nobody seems to understand what the reason for that is. And I'm not quite sure that, I mean, my basic guess is that Trump is thinking down the road for his kids and his company and his family. They want to open hotels in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And if he, once he leaves the presidency, all these things that he has done, for Russia, because everything that you see him doing on Ukraine, he's doing for Russia. These are things like, for example, this 28 points reduces the Ukrainian army. You have to reduce it to
600,000.
600,000 personnel. Why? Because Russia, maybe they want to invade it again and make it easier the next time. I agree with the one point that says that Ukraine doesn't join NATO, but then on the other hand, why? Well, why shouldn't they? I think it should be open for discussion that European fighter jets are going to be stationed in Poland. That the U.S. is going to guarantee that there will be no war. If Ukraine invades Russia, they'll lose these guarantees. I mean, there are all kinds of terrible provisions in these 28 points that just go on, and everything kind of the majority lean toward Russia.
Now, I think that, there are some, what I consider reasonable, responsible people who have said that Trump is doing this for Putin, for Russia, for business after he is president, and for business for his relatives right now at the present time. And I think that is a horrendous attack upon a president of the United States, that he would be, people are saying he is selling out a country for the benefit of his own personal income and financial success. And there are some reasonable people who maintain that. Now, I hope that's not true. I don't know one way or another. All I do know is that Trump, right from the beginning, has favored the Russians in regards to this conflict. And unfortunately, all that corruption that existed in the Ukrainian government at the start of this war is finally really coming to the surface. And you got people resigning left and right because of all the money that they apparently have stolen in aid from the United States, from Europe. It makes it much more difficult to defend the Ukraine. But to me, we still can't sell them out to the Russians. They're still better than the Russians.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, whatever the faults are, and every country has faults, but I think this is a surrender document because the Ukraine and us, the West, we would acknowledge that Russia would control and legally control the Crimea, which they took 10 years ago,
About
and
that.
then these new territories that they occupied in Ukraine, the Luhansk, if I'm pronouncing it right, and Donetsk. And then they want Ukraine to withdraw from Russian territories, the oblast, I guess it's called, this area that the Ukrainian military moved into Russia on.
Right.
So Russia gets to keep everything that it's done. It has but most important, I think, out of all of this is that Ukrainians give up the right to file lawsuits against Russia for the civilian damage to buildings, to property that were caused by his invasion. And it was an unprovoked invasion. He may have had political reasons why he wanted to do it, but there was no military reason by Ukraine to go into Russia, to provoke Russia to attack Ukraine. And I think that's the bigger thing. He wants to brush aside responsibility for the civilians that he killed in this, war. And I think he needs to be held accountable for what he's done.
Well, I do also, but it's very, very unfortunate that the Ukrainians, in essence, were forced by the West, primarily by the United States, to give up their nuclear weapons. If they
Right.
had not given up their nuclear weapons, I do not believe that the Russians would have attacked the Ukraine. I sincerely believe that. And I think it is partly our fault that we had forced the Ukrainians to do that. Now, also, it is our fault that once upon a time we promised Yeltsin and then Putin that NATO would not move any further east than
Right.
Germany. Okay. And we've moved a lot further east. Now, I'm all for that, but we told them we weren't going to do that. So, looking at it from the Russian side, they believe that NATO is getting closer and closer to them because NATO is going to attack them. Well, I don't believe that. You don't believe that. But I believe there are people in Russia who do believe that. And I think that Putin may very well be one of those people.
Well, I think that those European countries have moved into closer and closer to NATO because I think Putin has become much more aggressive, moving
Absolutely.
away from all those reforms that Boris Yeltsin, first initiated, and then that what was his name with the ink splot on his head? I can't think of his name right now. The Russian leader,
Yeah, yeah.
Gorbachev.
No, not Gorbachev. No, was it Gorbachev?
Yeah, yeah, with
Yeah,
the ink
okay, yeah,
spot.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeltsin actually became after him. Yeltsin was the
Yes, right.
president of
Gorbachev and then
Russia
Yeltsin,
itself.
but they ushered in reforms
Oh,
that
definitely.
to change, and we embraced them, and we worked with them, and we tried to work with them. The last thing that one of the points that I really disagree with is this: Ukraine is supposed to hold elections in 100 days, and because Putin knows that he can influence those elections, and he can undermine Zelensky and put his people in there like he does in Belarus, which he controls.
Right, absolutely.
And he's basically going to end up controlling Ukraine through the elections. If he can't win it in a war, he's going to do it through an election. So it worries me. Any other final thoughts at all about any of this stuff, Bill?
Well, I wish I had something very positive to say, but unfortunately, we have a lot of problems internationally and domestically. And I'm hoping and praying that the good Lord still takes care of America and we come out of this nightmare in pretty good shape. And the nightmare, I believe, will be over when the Democrats control at least one of the two houses of Congress. So there'll be a legal check on some of the things that President Trump wants to do.
And maybe force him to do the right thing instead of going off to the extreme as he does in some cases. I thought those are great words. All right, I'm Ray Hanania,
I'm Bill Lipinski, and
and
this is
this
Two
is
Guys on Politics.
all right. We will see you again. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.